Oh my god. Today has just been a day full of nostalgia for me. So, whoever it is that sent the links to me, um, I got the Tumblr thing, and I decided to look around a little bit of Glip's art stuff, and I did end up finding that one thing about PK and shroomsworth's resolution, so as to say. I guess it was just kind of it looked I guess it was just kind of thrown together sort of thing. But the real juice of I've reblogged it on my personal Tumblr. The real juice of it was um can I please get this post? Wait, it's over here. That's right. Um, let's see if this will show up on here. But yeah, the real meat of it all was oh, that's the second time I've seen the person who co-created one of my childhood Flash games did something related to PMD-Explorers. And Tiny Shroomsworth, he I love him. I want to hold him in my hands. I want to give him pets. And also, that wasn't the only thing that they did, which is I'm surprised. Like they also drew gunpowder. I th let's see, was this them? Yeah, it looks like this they posted this. Damn. Let's see. Oh yeah, and there's also this piece. Also, you can tell that this is an old Tumblr blog because if I remember correctly, I was looking into this whole stuff, and apparently this person quit working on the game in like somewhere early 2020, somewhere in the early 2020s. Man, I can't believe this used to be people back then. Oh yeah, and then there's another gunpowder commission. Apparently, Lati really liked this person. I think. I think this was a Lati commission. But yeah, it's a very interesting sort of thing, which then spiraled into I I got Transform Ice on Steam because I found it was on Steam, and I went ahead and made a new account and played on it for a bit before I was like, wait, shit, my old account might still be on here because the password is really fucking stupid. So I went ahead and, well, I managed to find my old Transform Ice account. So, I'm gonna show it. Here it is. Oh, that's really tiny. Yeah, there it is. And as you can see right here, it was registered on, I think that's August 4th, 2010, which is like, hmm, I think that's like 4 months after the game came out. Let me check just Transformers release date. Because this registration date, this is not an American game, so it follows day, month, year instead of month, day, year. Yeah, it was released as a browser game on May 1st, 2010. What number day is May? January, February, March, April, May. 5. So actually, it's 3 months after the game came out on Flash, and I played this game on Congregate. And if my Slender Fortress friends are anything to go by, it seems there's a few of them that also played this game, though I don't know when they registered. But it's interesting to know. Also, you can tell this was old because of the tribe name right here. I think I joined. Yeah, I looked at it, and apparently this tribe, I joined it in 2013. So I made the account in 2010. I joined a tribe in 2013 and then fucked off for a few years. I say a few. What it what that means in reality is I got back on it now. And yeah, I made this account mine again. So yep, I suck ass at shaman. By the way, the physics in this game, the physics in Transformice are just as janky as I remember, and it took a while to relearn some of the tech, like the wall climb. Wall climb is a bit difficult in this game because it's you do it on the descent, and you also have to do it while you're not descending too fast. You gotta be like a little bit descending. But if you're touching a wall before that, and then you hold left and jump, you just get a jump. I don't know. It's a weird mechanic. Oh, and also the janky physics. I really liked the janky physics back then. I used to watch YouTube videos of random stuff. Oh yeah, yeah. Hmm. You know, a part of me does want to do a little interview thingy with the artist, the co-founder for this game, though I don't know if they're open for anything. Because I do remember being notified that PK made something for a Transform Ice at some point. Let me, yeah, Easter 2013. So, oh shit! I actually have this hat. Oh shit! I have something from the event that PK made art for. Oh, and let me get the art itself, just so you all can see it. But yeah, Glip made this for Transform Ice. I did. I don't use the Rainbow Dash hair anymore. That was back when I was first starting to get into being a brony. Where is this? Yeah, this chicken hat. Apparently, I bought it sometime, or maybe I. Yeah, I probably bought it during the Easter event. God, I did not think I would cross the two over. Jeez. And yeah, I do remember about PK doing our first Steven Universe, and I do know about the Floorverse characters in that one Steven Universe comic, which is still kind of a surprise to me. Anyway, it is now 9:01. Yeah, it's still surprise. It still amazes me how they were this huge of an artist back then and just threw it all away after the big PMDE stuff, and then things went really down here after Floraverse. Oh yeah, there were Floraverse characters in the Steven universe. I think it was Belith and Amdusius, if I remember correctly. Um. Okay. Fuck. But where do I? Where would I find the comic? Because it's in a comic. Oh shit. I wish I could find it. Yeah, they cameoed as humans. Ah, Let's see, was it... I want to know where I can find it, though. God, the Steven Universe wiki does not give me any clues or anything. Does anybody know which Steven Universe comic it is? Because wow, there are a lot more Steven Universe comics than I realized. Jesus. Yeah, it's a... Wait, shit. Oh, thank you, Wikia. Um, yeah, shit. Oh, fuck. Where is... This is gonna be a tangent before we even get into the reading, jeez. Okay, how many pages is this? That doesn't seem that long. I can probably find the page if I really look hard enough. Sorry for this tangent. Is is this the right one? I don't think this is the right one. No, this does not look like the right one. Is it? I honestly don't even know at this point because I'm trying to look for characters. No, this is not it. Oh shit. Okay, 2017. Surely there's got to be Surely it's got to be somewhere. Hang on, let me put on some music so y'all aren't bored with me trying to uh VLC. Okay, VLC media player just crashed. This is not it. Also, I did try reading Floorverse at some point. It was like last year on the during Halloween. Fuck it, I'm just gonna see if this Tumblr person. Oh. Yep. Okay, so I can use this person's Tumblr thing. Boop 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 boop. But there they are. Ah, fuck. But yeah, you can clearly see that this is Amdusias and this is Beleth. God, I don't even know if the comments on this are aware of the Floraverse characters. Let me actually check real quick and see if anybody's brought up Floraverse within this. I'm actually kind of surprised they, or maybe it's just part of the plot. That's why they took a picture of it. Okay, enough of being very sidetracked. Now I can start with the readings and oh, funny you start with that VLC media player. Very funny that you start with that song. Hang on. There we go. So I guess it's about time I finally get to this because if I remember correctly, the epilogue to this is it actually takes place after these side stories finally. So this time I'm not going to have to read the epilogue first. And I know that the epilogue takes place after all of these because it specifically mentions events that happen in Mike's story. I think it was Reprieve. Yeah, it's Reprieve. So, it's time to get sad for Shroomsworth again, which is what. Yep. Okay, now here we go. In the dusk of slowly settling night, Sapling Village was winding down. After a very recent tragedy, it wasn't quite the stirring hub of commerce it often enjoyed being, even at the peak hours of the day. Thus, not much of a crowd awaited a most familiar monocle-wearing visitor as he approached on the path. There was only a somber silence which accompanied the orange glow of the setting sun through the surrounding trees. The mood wasn't lost on Shroomsworth, even though he just arrived. He shared their sense of loss. With the elder gone, there was only one logical place to first make his return. Shroomsworth sighed to himself quietly as he trudged his way to the entrance of Sapling Library. Like many of Tao's old buildings and all of the others in Sapling, there was no entry door, in favor of a draped archway. From under the drape, soft light emanated like an offered welcome. With that, the flimsy cloth was pushed aside as the Breloom peeked his way into the building proper. The library's lobby was a cozy area, one that its caretakers often used as living space. There was adequate seating both with and without end tables, coffee tables, anything that could be needed between them, and any number of visitors interested in their literature. Glowing, bulbous flowers, often strange to newcomers, grew from the walls like traditional scones. Scones? Yeah, I think that's scones. Freely giving off an adequate, faintly blue light. Several feet from the entrance, the room expanded greatly into the library itself, with many books sorted for many tastes. That wasn't what interested Shroomsworth, though. In the middle of the comfortable lobby was a familiar face, forlornly buried into a book of some sort over one of the taller tables. She hadn't even noticed him yet. Shroomsworth cleared his throat to gain attention. He stepped all the way through the drape, allowing it to properly close behind his tail. The Roserade seated nearby perked up to notice him, and a smile came over her face. He could tell it was genuine, but it was anything but excited. Shroomsworth, she called him by name. Ariana released the book from her viny grasp and pushed her seat back, standing from it. She quickly approached the gentleman standing in her library's doorway, stopping just short of him. I wasn't entirely sure if you'd come right away, but I'm glad you did. How could I not? Shroomsworth replied, stepping further into the comfortable lobby. There were no belongings in tow other than his worn monocle, leaving him at a loss to do anything except approach the back of a chair and settle his claws upon it with a sigh. Ariana followed at his side, and he turned his head to look upon her. Seeing the sadness through her smile caused feelings of guilt to well up inside him. I am sorry, he spoke up after a moment of silence, averting his gaze once again. I trusted her. As did I, Ariana replied without missing a beat. But we can't dwell on that. It wasn't your fault any more than it was mine. Just then, Shroomsworth felt a single vine creep under his chin, gently coaxing him to look its owner in the eye once again. Her smile looked a little more welcoming than it did before. It certainly did the trick. After the intense feeling of betrayal he'd suffered before making his way westward, a genuine friendly face from his childhood was much like applying salve to a wound. I'm simply happy that you showed up. I'm certain your siblings will be too, Ariana assured in a calming tone. She then utilized the vines protruding from her flower-like hands to pull the nearest seat out from under the table. Please, make yourself at home. So much time spent traveling made the offer all the more pleasing. A relieved sigh sounded from Shroomsworth as he let himself settle into the wooden chair. Thank you, he accepted graciously, wincing down towards his own feet once he was off them. Their combined ache made him wish he had simply taken Barty's air service, but the rather explosive consequences of his departure didn't exactly make room for the idea. No sense worrying about that now, he guessed. Dude, you should have let me carry you. I know I'm a small bird, but I'll do my damn best. Ariana let her smile fade somewhat as she walked around the table and returned to her seat, leaving Shroomsworth at the left side of the table from her. The book she had been reading was still in front of her, but she certainly didn't wish to go back to reading now that she had a most important guest. I know you must be weary of the subject, but I'm sure you would like to know that the burial went along as planned. The news felt like a stab to Shroomsworth's heart, but it carried a feeling of closure with it. There were worse possible fates, ones that made his skin crawl. I am glad nothing went wrong. To even think of those boneyard scavengers finding him first, I can't bear it. I made absolutely sure we moved him as soon as possible. The worry was on my mind too, Ariana admitted with concern. Her gaze averted to the book she had been reading prior, and she picked it up in her vines to accentuate its importance. I had been studying the history of previous elders. Most of them passed within the village itself, ensuring that they will be prepared for the burial. And then... Miss Ariana! The gentlemanly Breloom stood quickly after his stern-sounding... Wait, hold on. Miss Ariana! Okay, there we go. Now I know who was speaking. The gentlemanly Breloom stood quickly after a stern-sounding outburst, pushing his seat out behind him with the motion as he settled his clawed hands upon the wooden table. Pardon me for the interruption, Shroomsworth apologized, shaming his voice over his sudden rudeness. But I really must arrange some quarters for myself. I plan to reside in this village once more. He really didn't know what came over him, but he couldn't listen to more of that thought. It was strange. Not once to Ariana's recollection that Shroomsworth ever outright interrupted someone like that. Her eyes averted until she heard of his plans, which brought her to smile once again. In light of confirmation that he would stay around, Ariana was willing to forget all that minor faux pas. I see. I can offer you spare quarters here if you'd like. Though it was a nice gesture, Shroomsworth shook his head, stepping to the side and pushing his chair back in. I will be quite fine with one of the caretaker's quarters in the hub, but thank you, dearest Ariana. With solemn understanding, Ariana nodded up at Shroomsworth. I suppose that would be most comfortable for you. Perhaps on your way you could pay your respects at the elder's grave before sundown, she suggested, lifting her book to continue where she had left off. The suggestion caused Shroomsworth to freeze for just a moment. Quite, was his only reply, low and somewhat unsure, as he made his way back out of the drape he had entered from, into the relative low orange glow of the outdoors. On the way across the unpopulated square of the village, Shroomsworth briefly pondered the suggestion he was given. Very briefly. Before he knew it, his feet had taken him to the front of the Shroomish Hub, a building he was very familiar with. It was once his home. He never thought he'd call it that again, but it wasn't a bad feeling. He would have to tread carefully, though. An early bedtime was something he remembered clearly from his childhood. As Shroomsworth entered through the drape, he was greeted with a sight of many toys, desks, and other activities that his brothers enjoyed so much, basking in the glow of those same sorts of flowers found in the library and most other buildings. It always gave him a sense of accomplishment to remember that they were once making do with makeshift toys crudely made of leaves and wood, only to have him put actual funds towards importing well-crafted things. His funds went toward expanding the hub as well. A large bedroom, accessible by 2 draped archways across the room from the entrance, housed many beds, which were currently full of his slumbering siblings, if you had to guess. They previously had to slumber in the entry room with all their belongings. There were 2 more bedrooms off to the sides of those. While designated caretakers often had their own dwellings to return home to, they would need to stick around at night to watch over the little ones. Sometimes there was more than one volunteer at a time, necessitating multiple private quarters to retreat to. Shroomsworth approached the arch leading to one of those very rooms, being as silent as he could. He was just about ready to peek inside to see if a current caretaker was utilizing it. That was when he heard a most peculiar noise. Sniffling. That was a clear sign that they were awake. But what was wrong? Was someone grieving? Shroomsworth felt that he should at least check on them, knowing that they were awake. He pushed the drape open to a nearly pitch-black room. The soft light from the central room shone in on the darkness, revealing his closest, tie-wearing brother seated on the room's relatively large bed, sobbing quietly to himself. "Sporgod?" he called out, pushing his way into the room. There was a segmented half-sphere covering on the wall with a handle in the middle. Shroomsworth reflexively turned it, causing the upper segment of the sphere to rotate so that it was cupped inside the lower one, releasing light into the room from a previously enclosed flower. It was the village's light switch, so to speak, and it allowed Shroomsworth to see his brother gazing back at him. Though teary-eyed, it would seem that his presence warranted a smile. "Brother!" Sporgod exclaimed through a whispered tone that was mindful of the others sleeping nearby. Eagerly, the little shroomish slipped from the edge of the bed and ran for Shroomsworth, making a very trustworthy leap towards him. Oof! Shroomsworth exhaled as Sporgard impacted lightly against his stomach, though he still caught him in his arms and embraced him in a warm brotherly hug. Aww. However, he immediately felt the stain of those wet tears against his body, accompanied by another sniffle. Goodness, Sporgard, he began, carrying his smaller brother back to the bed and sitting down on it himself, allowing Sporgard to rest on his knee. I had certainly hoped to see you, but not so very sad. What is the matter? He asked in the most calming manner he could. Oh, it's indefinitely nice of you to ask, brother. Sporgard started, pausing only to sniffle. I went to the elder's burial med ceremony because Miss Ariana said it was respectful, but not about all of our brothers and sisters went. Dang it, Dio, can you not play Counter-Strike at this instance? I tried really hard to get them to go because I want them to be respectable to the elder too, but they would not go. Then I got in trouble for yelling. God, yeah, Lavachi really had some writing experience. I think if I remember correctly from the interview, he did say he was doing some D&D stuff nowadays, probably with an internal group. So I'm willing to bet that his writing did not go to waste. It was quite unlike his closest brother to shout at anyone. Still, Shroomsworth understood what it was all about, wearing his best comforting smile as he looked down upon Sporgard. You must understand, not all of your brothers and sisters are as brave as you are. But what does it have to do with bravery, brother? Sporgard replied, flicking up through teary eyes. It's not about that. It's about being respectable to the elder, right? The notions brought upon by his smaller brother made Shroomsworth look away for a brief moment with nervousness. It was certainly not an easy subject. Well, that is true. Still, you should not pressure them if they feel uncomfortable with going. Surely you know that all of your siblings, myself included, have the utmost respect for our elder. You may be shouting at them for things they cannot help. Sporgard looked down in thought. I suppose that is true. I should apologize, he concluded, hopping right off of Shroomsworth's lap and landing effortlessly on the floor below. He turned to face Shroomsworth and a smile was crossing his face for the first time, though his eyes were still teary. How long are you visiting for this time, brother? With a relieved sigh, Shroomsworth placed his claws together in his now empty lap. I'm not visiting this time, dear Sporgard. Let's say you and I will be seeing a lot of each other from now on. He hinted quite blatantly, with a wink through his monocle to match. A rather upbeat gesture for such hard times, but if anyone would bring good feelings out of him at this point, it would be his closest brother. It took a moment for Sporgard to get it, but when he did, his smile went from mild happiness to absolutely glowing. He even hopped in place with glee, though he did his best to refrain from making too much noise with the gesture. A curious look came over him once he stopped, though. What of the merchants, then? Are you still now working with Miss PK? Another question that it felt difficult to answer, even if it wasn't. She is responsible for... Shroomsworth almost said outright, then paused. He gazed into his brother's curious eyes, and he just couldn't say it as he would to anyone else. She and I decided it would be best not to work together anymore. She is staying with the merchants, and I am going to stay here with you. It was the best way he could think of to put it, though it was certainly not telling the whole story. Oh, Sporgard acknowledged. His smile didn't return upon hearing that news. She was rather fun to be around. Are you sure it is alright for you to leave and come here? It does not make you sad? He asked with innocent curiosity. Shroomsworth let his gaze lower to the floor as he became lost in thought. It certainly was regrettable that everything turned out this way. He soon returned his eyes upon Sporgard, and with a pleasant smile crossed his face. There could be nothing more alright than spending more time with you and the rest of our family. Please, worry not and let us get some rest. Those were some reassuring words for certain. Ones that returned the smile to Sporgard's face. Very well, I'm feeling incredulously better now, so I'm going back to my bed. Good night, brother, he whispered, seemingly in a much better mood as he waddled through the arched drape. I cannot whisper in that voice, by the way. Alone again, though at least with a proper bed to rest his weary bones on, once he settled his monocle upon the nearby table. It felt so physically pleasing to roll back into the cushioned surface, to pull the smooth, pleasant sheets over himself. Shroomsworth had finally found proper rest after having so little ever since Sorbet's rampage. He sent his brother to bed feeling uplifted, but as the side of his face nestled against the pillow, he found himself gently pulling it to cover his eyes. In spite of his earlier stoic manner, it was dampened with tears until he could find the peace of mind to sleep. For all that went wrong, for all that felt wrong, it was, at the very least, a peaceful night's slumber. It was only nearing sunrise that a commotion rang out from the rest of the hub, stirring Shroomsworth from his rest. Groggily, he eased himself up to sit at the side and rubbed his half-lidded eyes. Like he'd done many times before, he reached out to the side without looking to grasp his monocle, but had to adjust his reach somewhat to account for the differing room, and thus different furniture. With ease, he detached it and settled it upon his face, only to have it nearly startled off of him as he heard shouting. "Let me go!" a familiar youthful voice rang out. "Look at that bag of goods he's already pilfered. What a little sneak. Planning to take some shroomish eggs next, Another voice followed, another familiar one. Whatever it was, it required his attention. Shroomsworth reared back from his seat and hastily sprung to his feet. Once upright, he noticed that he had left the light cover off. It hadn't interrupted his sleep at all, after how utterly exhausted he was. But he still remembered to slide it closed on his way out into the hub. With that large room, many of the shroomish had awakened already. That wasn't so odd. Early to bed, early to rise, and all that rot. The superior in the middle of the room throttling his coils around a Sneasel? That was odd. The shroomish were gathered around the occurrence. Some were frightened, others almost seemed happy, likely thinking the act was deserved. There was also a strange sack near the two. It was easy to infer that it must have been carried by the Sneasel. As the smaller Sneasel struggled in the superior's grip... Oh, that's a scarf, so now I know what voice that should be. The green snake wore a righteous scowl. "What do you say, kids? Send him back featherless and with a mouthful of soap instead of eggs?" he suggested in a playful yet grim manner. It was met with several of the shroomish around the room cheering aloud. The Sneasel, clad in a green scarf, shook his head briskly and pleaded at the snake. "I'm not here to steal anything! Please, let go! Ginkgo, let that boy go!" Shroomsworth intervened, marching right up to the scene. Everyone regarded with him with some degree of surprise, except for Sporgard. "Shroomsworth?" the superior responded in kind, though he kept his captive in his grasp. His eyes darted back to the captive Sneasel with confusion, then to Shroomsworth again. "Are you sure? You know what they've done before." With a sigh, Shroomsworth rested his face in one of his claws. "Yes, he's one of mine from the guild," he explained. That was enough to convince his friend to release the Sneasel, who he promptly approached to place his claw upon his shoulder. He appeared somewhat distraught, understandably so, given what had just happened to him. "Rhodes, dear boy, are you alright?" "Yeah," Rhodes answered, sputtering a minor cough in the process. He turned and crouched to pick up the simple sack he had dropped before, looking up at Shroomsworth and offering it to him in his claws. "Miss PK told me to bring you your stuff, like, mostly tea stuff. I was real careful till now, but I don't think I heard him break," he added, throwing in an optimistic smile at the end. The apology grabbed Rhodes' attention. Wait, hold on, that's not the way to read that. Ginkgo chimed in, worrying at his own mistake. Sorry about that, little guy. I'm supposed to be looking out for these little guys." He extended a grassy vine from under his gold-adorned neck area, gesturing to the many shroomish in the room. They were varying degrees of confused, and perhaps still worried over the presence of a Sneasel. The apology grabbed Rose's attention as Shroomsworth accepted the belongings from him. He turned to the larger snake, still a little tense after their run-in. "It's okay," he forgave, though his averted gaze and unsure tone were quite apparent. Inside the sack given to Shroomsworth was indeed what Rhodes mentioned, though he grimaced at the contents. Some dishes were cracked or chipped, but if the Sneasel's words were true, then it must have been out of his power to do anything about it. At least most were intact, and his spare monocles were there too. His claw reached in to shuffle things aside, looking for something in particular. Then he found it. One of the monocles within was a little more crude than the others. The frame was just a little smaller, and the string attached was a bit simpler than the rest. It brought on a relieved smile. "Oh, wow." Once again, Ginkgo spoke up. He slithered close to Shroomsworth and leaned in, gazing upon that specific monocle with interest. "You don't wear that one anymore?" I guess it couldn't be helped in this case, because knowing Slasher's gang, they couldn't possibly know have known that Rhodes was in the Merchants Guild at this particular time. Once again, Ginkgo spoke up. He slithered close. Wait, I just read that. No, not really, no, Shroomsworth replied, carefully cradling his childhood eyewear in his claws as he looked down at it. A little dusty, but not a scratch otherwise. Very lucky. It is a little more difficult to keep on due to its size, but even then, I would never want it to be broken or misplaced. As he placed it back with the rest of his things, he added, I had worried something might have happened to it. Knowing that he'd brought something so important seemed to make Rhodes happy again. He approached Shroomsworth, no longer wary of the snake that had been throttling him minutes before. What are you gonna do now that you have your stuff back, Mr. Shroomsworth? As he carefully toted the sack of goods to the room he had slept in, he considered his options. He sounded out while pushing the drape aside, setting his belongings just inside the room. He'd arrange them later. He then turned back to Rhodes with a most upbeat smile. Since you are here, why not accompany me to the Commerce Mushroom? From the crowd of Shroomish, Sporgard bounded forth excitedly, settling right next to Rhodes as he looked up at Shroomsworth. I wish to go too! He then turned around, gazing at Ginkgo expectantly. Please, Mr. Ginkgo, may I go? Ginkgo looked down upon Sporgard briefly before cracking a smile. He shot a temporary glance at Shroomsworth, who was smirking with amusement right with him. Alright. Truthfully, I'd like to go with you and catch up with my old buddy, but the children do need watching over. Splendid! We can catch up in due time, my good fellow, Shroomsworth answered, as his little brother was already excitedly making his way outside. With a wave of his claw, the Brayloom bid farewell to Ginkgo for the time being, and exited the hub alongside Rhodes. Outside, things felt a little less dreary than they did the evening prior. Villagers were making their ways around for this and that. The sky was mildly overcast, making the moment a little darker than usual, but nothing would stop anyone from getting on with their lives. Most were, as usual, coming to or going from the Commerce Mushroom, and that's where the three would be headed. With Sporgard and Rhodes on either side of him, Shroomsworth made his way there. Soon enough, that huge familiar arch stood before them, beckoning them to enter the village's enclosed market. With what seemed like, though couldn't have been, scores of stands, booths, and even some enclosures stood before him, separated down by the middle by a single mossy path, marked on either side by rows of varying mushrooms. At the far end of expansive holding was what appeared to be an indoor fountain, yet its rocky natural look suggested that it must have indeed been natural. Behind it stood a constructed wooden wall that effectively enclosed a good portion of whatever stood behind the fountain. From the top of it all hung several giant, glowing flower bulbs, always casting adequate light upon the many Pokemon below, regardless of the time of day outside. A curiosity to a newcomer would be that one side of the path had wooden booths completely run by grass-type Pokemon, while the other was much more diverse in both Pokemon and the styles of their stands. Shroomsworth was proud to have spent much of his life here. He peeked over his shoulder and grinned when he found the young Sneasel marveling at the sight. Further in he went, with the two trailing closely behind him. It is wonderful, is it not? He began, gesturing with his claws as he went. Our local market operates on one side, while we let foreigners operate on the other. They sell their wares and often partake in ours. As the Brayloom led the two younger Pokemon through the main path, many stalls were just setting up for the day. From both sides, local and foreign, Pokemon were setting up wares. Foodstuffs from raw ingredients to freshly prepared goods, souvenirs of various sorts, medicinal supplies, toys. The selection was surprisingly vast for such a humble village. Eventually, they came to a single wooden stall by the far end of it all. Its sign simply read berries, with a crude painting of assorted berries at the side, obscured by a hanging placard that read closed. It gave Shroomsworth a nostalgic feeling to gaze upon this, his old stall, the place where he started it all. It was big enough for your average medium-sized Pokemon, so he always had to stand on a small wooden block just to see over the counter. He couldn't help but chuckle to himself when he stepped around just to see that it was still there, tucked under the stall with a batch of berries. Others had likely been using the stall on some days, but there were other, more convenient ones that sold the same thing by now. It was obsolete, but it was his favorite. It just wouldn't do for it to go unmanned while he was around. Fellows, Shroomsworth began, stepping up to the counter and placing his claws upon it. It felt so strange to be proper height. Rhodes and Sporgard stood before him on the opposite end of the stand, and he simply smiled at them. I think I would commandeer my old post, so to speak, to warm up to being here once more. What say you two be my helpers for the day, God, he looks so adorable. Of course, brother, Sporgard spoke up excitedly. What shall I do? You have a very important task, Sporguard, Shroomsworth said with such confidence, though he didn't quite have an idea of what task that would be. At least until he glanced under the stall. There was quite an assortment of berries stowed away in various sacks. Right away, he knew what needed to be done. You know where the other berry stalls are, yes? Do see what they have on display so that we may show off something they do not. Oh, smashing idea! The little shroomish, with all of the excitement of a well-mannered child, immediately waddled off among the other stalls. With his brother off on his task, Shroomsworth was left with Rhodes. The young Sneasel had been rather silent, and appeared distant at a glance. As he reached up to pluck the closing placard from the stall, that's the second time I confused it for Picard, he decided to speak up to break the odd silence. Something on your mind, dear boy? Rhodes didn't exactly snap to attention, as though he weren't paying any of it prior. Instead, he glanced up at the prelim and nodded. Yeah, Mr. Shroomsworth, I have a question. Showing a bit less regard for manners than he likely should have, the Sneasel hopped over to the front of the stall, letting his legs dangle off the side as he used it as a seat. Is your brother really a kid? That was out of left field. Shroomsworth was so taken aback that the placard slid out of his claws, harmlessly dropping onto the countertop. That's quite a question. Why do you ask? Well, that guy called all the Shroomish kids, right? Sporguard acts like a kid too, but something feels different. Maybe he just sounds a little older. I don't know. Rhodes shied away from his explanation and twiddled his claws together the more he went through it, realizing it might be insensitive. While the truth of the matter wasn't pretty, Shroomsworth couldn't help but smile weakly. You are actually quite perceptive. Sporguard is, in fact, older than you are, he admitted, following up with a displeased sigh. As it turns out, age is not a factor in determining the perceived youth of Shroomish in this village. They are almost all children in the eyes of the other Pokemon who live there. Really? Why? Rhodes asked with genuine curiosity. Let me scroll for a bit. It was actually a little strange for Shroomsworth to have explained his village's ways. It was usually a thing best left to Ariana and her scholarly interests, but if Rhodes of all people wanted to know, he could at least summarize. It is a most interesting traditional thing. As far back as this village's roots take it, Shroomsworth resided here even longer still. However, Shroomsworth paused sigh, gazing down at the aged wooden surface of a stall. Early texts suggest that they were very simple-minded. Apparently very interested, Rhodes turned to more comfortably face Shroomsworth and nodded, hugging his legs to himself rather than letting him dangle. The early villagers took them in out of their respect for the forest, seeing as the Shroomish were part of it too. They began teaching them. After a brief pause, Shroomsworth smiled once again. Miss Ariana suggests that many of our charitable traditions come from generations of this relationship thing between the Shroomish and the other villagers. In a way, we were very important to shaping the future, despite unflattering beginnings in history. While he was obviously a little confused, Rhodes tilted his head with curiosity, prompting a brief bounce in his head feather. So, when did they get to grow up? That is a good question, Shroomsworth praised, laying both of his claws upon the surprisingly sturdy surface before him. I will just decide that. At their discretion, they may make it some sort of test or award for one who excels. Wow, it sounds kinda hard to have to do some kind of test to grow up, Rose remarked with amusement. What'd you have to do? Sell a whole bunch of stuff? While trying to quickly find an answer to that question in his head, Shroomsworth tapped his claws upon the sturdy stall before him and averted his eyes. It wasn't really as simple of a story as many might have guessed. Oh dear. Well, you see, and perhaps the only instance where stalling for time by drawing out a sentence would work, a rather questionable savior turned up. Hold on. I need to drink break. I haven't even had a drink break yesterday. A large purple form waded through the foreign trade stalls, headed straight for Shroomsworth. Look who it is, it called out in a deep, rumbling yet jovial voice. And Nidoking's large, plated form stepped out over the middle path on his approach. Around his shoulders hung a long, simple, and well-kept cloth draped over the back of his neck that flowed down his chest. It displayed an array of randomly arranged colors dyed over it, doing wonders toward making the large Pokemon appear as non-threatening as possible. Despite the welcome interruption, Shroomsworth still couldn't help but breathe a low-profile sigh of dismay. The lumbering poison-type Pokemon approached the other side of his stall, only to hold up what appeared to be, by all respects, a blue rubber ball with a crude happy face on it. It might as well have been a toy, however, given who this was, Shroomsworth knew it couldn't be that simple, and looked upon it with skepticism. What is it? I heard you were back, and I knew you'd like to see some of my hot new products since you've been gone. The Nidoking asserted before giving the ball a squeeze. Though he apparently put much strength into it, the ball's form only distorted it to a minor degree. I call it a happy ball. You squeeze it, and the exertion pulls all the unhappy toxins out of your body till you're happy again, he proudly explained, looking down upon Shroomsworth with a grin. It was rather difficult for Shroomsworth to hide how unimpressed he was, especially as the ball was squeezed once more in the front of his face, producing a mild squeaking noise. Eventually, he brought one of his palms up to rub one of his cheeks, feeling within them the minor burn of being embarrassed for another living being. Tell me, Trudeau, how many of these have you sold? Just before Trudeau answered, Rhodes reached out and grasped the ball, which he was allowed to hold and squeeze with the dull bases of his claws for the time being. The Nidoking didn't appear to be stingy with his merchandise. Not many yet, mostly foreign visitors from Alomomola. Oh, thank goodness, Shroomsworth muttered under his breath. The last thing he needed to hear was that this village was buying into this. That's the story. That's always the story, Trudeau went on dejectedly. I don't know how to reach out to the villagers, hear about cleansing their bodies, you know? I thought maybe something they didn't have to eat. Something they didn't have to eat wouldn't work. Maybe you should sell it like a toy. It's a nice ball, Rhodes interjected, smiling up to the Nidoking as he tossed the happy-faced ball as such that it bounced once upon the stall before Trudeau could grasp it. Oh, I can't do that. It would be dishonest to call it a toy if it's medicinal. Just call it a stress ball. Those do exist. Much like several times in the past, Shroomsworth bit his tongue, but he was thinking it very heavily. Luckily, it was all over as the Nidoking lumbered around, careful of his tail's potentially wrecking sway as he returned from whence he came, weaving through booths harmlessly. I'll think of something and get back to you. Welcome back to the village and all that stuff. As far back as his earlier youth, Shroomsworth recalled that Nidoking. The fellow approached him one day and simply started showing off his wares, all designed to cure some sort of ailment that Shroomsworth had never heard of, or remove toxins. Did everyone contain toxins? He wasn't sure, but it kept happening, and dealing with those run-ins over the years had made him a little weary of it. As luck would have it, Sporgard returned shortly after that moment, having missed the entire spectacle. He shared his knowledge, and in but a few minutes, the stall was set with its own assortment of berries on display. Sure enough, there were customers in and out within the hour, and for much of the time following. However, there weren't quite as many as in times past. The recent issues in the region had only just subsided after all. When daylight was winding down, Shroomsworth's humble stall had still managed to turn a profit. With a sizable stack of coin in hand, he placed the close sign once more when nearing nightfall, and made his way to that peculiar enclosed area behind the fountain. On the way, with several other salesmen going by, Shroomsworth paused and looked to his side. Both Rhodes and Sporgard were following him, but his eyes laid upon Sporgard in particular. Maintaining his warmest smile, he suggested, I have a feeling Ginkgo will become worrisome if you do not return soon, dear brother. Why don't you go ahead to the hub before night falls, The younger Shroomish gazed up at Shroomsworth for a few moments, then smiled and gave a single nod. I do not want to cause a fuss. I will hurriedly make my way. Before leaving, the small Pokemon turned to Rhodes, beaming up at him similarly. It was great leisure to meet you, Mr. Rhodes. Do enjoy yourself. After giving his best compliments, Sporgard took his usual bouncy steps out of the large hollowed mushroom and back to the hub with his kin. Now once again alone with Rhodes, Shroomsworth made his way into that wooden area behind the rocky fountain. Within it was a dimly lit, traditionally square room with mossy walls, a thin well rising from the middle, and a large pair of double doors with a stylized leaf engraved into them, held shut by strange vines that grew from the nearby moss. Other Pokemon were approaching the well and pouring some of their earnings into it, and Shroomsworth did the same. The resulting sound suggested that the modest coinage slid down some sort of the smooth slope into the depths below. As he did this, he observed that some Pokemon he had seen making successful sales on the market hadn't even showed up. A quiet grumble of discontent was all he had to say about it. Even with Even with the well being rather thin, Rhodes still leaned over and tried his best to peek into it with one eye. There must be a lot of cash down there. The boys' excitement over their funds, meager as they may have been compared to what other areas such as Alomomola or even Tau could bring in, brought a chuckle out of Shroomsworth. Ah, indeed. It all goes through our elders' holdings. They are expected to spend it for the good of the village, he explained, gesturing briefly to the large doors before them. Oh, Rhodes brought a claw to his chin and thought. It seems as though he'd continue on with his innocent questions about the village and the way it worked, but instead he peered up at Shroomsworth with a tinge of worry in those red eyes of his. Mr. Shroomsworth, are you going to be able to come back to Tau? As various Pokemon filtered out of the room, things became quiet and a little forlorn without their various footsteps and the jingling of their earnings tumbling down a chute. In relevant silence, thoughts came easier, clearer, and soon enough, so did answers. A sigh did precede them, though. Rhodes, I know you wish to help us both. It is very noble, the gentleman trailed off. With a few steps forward and an extension of his claw, he took hold of one of the vines upon the late elder's door and idly examined it. Their mere presence was a curiosity, and at that moment, Shroomsworth's eyes widened as a realization hit him. Something is amiss. Apologies, but we should continue this conversation later. The vine fell unceremoniously from Shroomsworth's grip as he turned and hastily made his way to the middle of the room. He glanced down at the sack of remaining money from the day's sales. It was within his right to walk out with it, but what would that accomplish? Instead, he once again tilted it over the well, emptying its leftover earnings into the cash below and tossing the sack aside. Unburdened, he turned and made his way out, but not before turning his head briefly to a confused Rhodes. Please, accompany me. Though it was obvious that nothing made sense to Rhodes at the moment, he sheepishly went along, and the two exited the commerce mushroom. On the way out, most of the villagers had gone, but many foreigners remained with their goods, slumbering next to their booths, or even inside if the particular booth was built for it, a definite luxury for the more successful sales pokies. Once outside, dusk was clearly upon the region. Each of the hut's doorways glowed with soft light from within, but Shroomsworth was making his way toward a specific residence, the first one he visited upon his arrival. Mr. Shroomsworth? Rhodes' voice sounded softly in the relative darkness. I've been wanting to ask you a weird question. A weird question, you say? Make it quick. We've not much distance to cover. Shroomsworth replied as he trudged along. Well... Rhodes paused in his speech, though not in his steps. How long have Sneasel lived in the forest? That was it? Shroomsworth couldn't help but chuckle in relief. Oh, that is quite simple. They were always... Yeah, Rhodes also should have stayed here. God, yeah. With how poor Sapling Village it is, and with how Merlot is constantly looming over them, Sapling Village does sound like a nice place to stay. For as long as his later youth, Shroomsworth considered that Creeping Forest was simply a Sneasel habitat by nature. Yet, now that he thought about it, I suppose that is an oddity. You and the others had no known parents about the area, yet you're all very young. All the better that you're all living in the village now, Yeah, Rhodes responded ponderously, as though that wasn't the answer he'd hoped for. The conversation came to a somewhat forced end as Shroomsworth wasted no time in pushing the drape of the library's entrance aside, making his way in with purpose. With Rhodes still trailing behind him, he did not find Arion in the lobby as he had the previous day. Thus, he stepped forth, closer to the library proper. Miss Ariana, he called out. The library itself was filled with enough shelves that he couldn't be sure she was even there by sight alone. Moments later, that familiar masked face showed itself from behind one of those very shelves. Shroomsworth? The Roserade asked with calm surprise. I heard you were already back to sales. You really don't need to push yourself. I'm quite fine, Shroomsworth asserted. With a few steps forward, he cleared his throat and reached up to adjust his monocle, though the act was more of a minor stall for time than anything. He wished to choose his next words carefully. I noticed that you've kept the Elder's quarters sealed off, despite my return. Ariana's expression settled into one of seriousness and concern. Her eyes averted, as though she felt a small amount of shame. Even still, she stepped out from behind the shelf into the open. I've been studying our literature on the matter. Our tradition is as such that through the years, the next eldest member of our village, both aged and wise, takes the position as elder, as it should be, given the title. There was a moment of tense silence as Shrooms would process what had just been told to him. But you know he favored me, Miss Ariana, he challenged, albeit in a low, unhappy tone. Something about that news gave him such a terrible sinking feeling in his chest, to know that anything stood between him and filling the role that his mentor prepared him for. The librarian gave but a single nod, keeping her eyes to the ground. It was clear that she was no happier with what she had just said. I've been looking through our records of birth dates. Elder Shroom, despite his untimely departure, was very long-lived. Very few of our current villagers are of even a comparable age. Such is the nature of his kind, I suppose. There is one who was not far behind, however. Try as he might, Shroomsworth couldn't imagine who it was. There were elderly Pokemon in the village, sure, but none of them stood out in his mind as particularly wise compared to the late elder. Who? With a sigh, Ariana turned away, pacing along the many shelves of assorted books. The position would now fall to me, as one of the eldest and most studied. What a strange thought. Shroomsworth boggled at the news and brought one of his claws to his chin. By that time, the young boy accompanying him had already become bored enough to be wandering around the lobby behind him, though he suddenly had larger concerns than keeping company entertained. You? In charge of everything? You needn't sound so surprised, Ariana responded, unamused. Her pacing came to a halt next to a certain shelf, from which her vines plucked a single book. As though she knew just what to look for, she opened it to the exact page she desired and gazed down at it. Suddenly, she took a somber tone. It sounds like a fantastic idea to have a descendant of the original healer lead us all, doesn't it? It was hard to grasp all of this at once. Shroomsworth had never been told that it would work this way. Why didn't anyone tell him? It didn't make sense. Frustration began to well up within him as he recalled all the time spent learning, listening, and growing. It didn't become him, though. He held back. I suppose. However, Ariana shook her head. It is my desire to carry on as the resident scholar. If it were up to me, foreigners would not sleep in our holdings daily. They've brought me nothing but trouble. She paused, only to calm herself with a sigh and continue. But Elder Shroom saw things differently from me. He had talent and experience that I cannot simply learn through a night of reading. Then why not allow me? I've bloody well lived his talent and experience through his teachings. The distinct feeling of unfairness drove Shroomsworth to pace in a circle as he began to rant. I've given my all for this guild of merchants. I've endured ridicule, unspeakable things, threats to my livelihood, and even attempts on my life. At that moment, he stopped and lifted his gaze to the rosary once more. Do you think I would not have the same dedication here, Miss Ariana? Those words seemed to have hit home, not only with Ariana, but even Rhodes. He stepped up to Shroomsworth's side and finally spoke up. It's true! Mr. Shroomsworth helped me out! Yep, another reference. Though she was being ganged up on this case, Ariana couldn't help but chuckle briefly. If it were that easy, I believe you would have swayed me right here, but... She suddenly took a much more serious tone. This is a very important decision. It goes against our usual traditions for leadership to be passed without infirm or death, much less to one who was happily traveling abroad before this incident. It does not sit well with me to put this responsibility on you without some thought and time. Visibly displeased, Shroomsworth grumbled under his breath. Given a few moments, though, it did make sense. Perhaps he shouldn't have been so eager to jump into the position, even if he felt correct for it. Very well. What of our coffers in the meantime? I will manage what I can. The foreign traders are on their own for management, however. Yep. I am not happy about that. Not the most pleasing news. There was little Shroomsworth could do to hide his disappointment as he turned away. I suppose there was nothing more for us to discuss then. Thank you for your time, Miss Ariana. The Rayloom stepped past Rhodes silently on his way out of the library, only to have the boy catch up within the mildly moonlit village square and stop him. Mr. Shroomsworth? Rhodes asked after a light tap at the larger Pokemon's side. He hesitated with his next words, but eventually out they came. I think I need to go back to Tao now. It wasn't that the news was surprising. It wasn't all, really. Tao was the boy's new home, after all. Something about it hit Shroomsworth hard, just to look down at Rhodes as he realized he would have to leave. Though, what if he didn't have to leave? PK was such a bother. Why would he want Rhodes to live through all that. So he placed a shoulder on. So he placed a claw on Rhodes' hands and say, "You know what? Why don't you live here instead? It's a lot more peaceful." I assure you things will be quite better here instead of with PK. I'll tell you all about it later. Sorry, I went all fanficky, but that's because wish fulfillment. They might not even see each other often after once that happened. Such thoughts drove him to stumble over his words. Ah, I see. I suppose that would be best. Rhodes stood staring up at Shroomsworth, hesitating for a few seconds before he leaned forward and wrapped his arms around the Breloom's lower neck in a soft hug. I'll come back with everything's all rebuilt and stuff, okay? Maybe then you'll be the leader. Just like that, with a kind gesture and some kind words, Shroomsworth felt at least a little relieved. His arms extended to wrap over Rhodes' back in a brief embrace. Just like that, though, it was over, and the boy was waving his goodbye. "See you soon," Rhodes called out. Oddly, he didn't quickly take to the trees as he usually did, lingering and trudging a few unnecessary steps first. With the last reminder of his life in Tau having left him, the relieved feeling Shroomsworth had quickly dissipated. The only thing he could do was shred to his quarters in the hub once more. Once again, everyone had already taken to bed, and he did the same. At the very least, it wouldn't be such a despairing slumber as the night before, but he found himself lying awake for a time, and he couldn't blame any one particular train of thought for it. God. Another drink break. Restful slumber, followed by a listless day. Time went on, and yet every day after his arrival seemed to adhere to that formula. Still, there were bright points to keep feelings of hopelessness at bay, such as catching up with his childhood friend or spending time with his brothers. In fact, he spent the following few days doing just that, rather than setting foot in the Commerce Mushroom as he usually enjoyed. For roughly 2 weeks, Shroomsworth would instead aid Ginkgo in taking care of the little ones. His mind would wander back to what Ariana said to him. It was within his choice to lead the commerce in his village, but a foreboding warning stuck with him. It bred doubts, and with that indecision about something he felt so right about before brought a sour feeling with it. At the very least, the tasks weren't unwelcome. Keeping the Shroomish in line wasn't terribly difficult, as they were fairly well behaved. Rounding them up for bedtime was the hardest part, as they tended to be very lively. 4 days later, and in the very late afternoon, Shroomsworth found himself quietly tidying up as Ginkgo read a book titled Outlaws Outlawed aloud to the children. It was a wholesome, simple, and comical story set in far-off Gambotville, in which a group of bandits miserably failed to rob a saloon. All the children were listening closely, except for one. "Brother?" The little tie-wearing Shroomish quietly spoke up from behind Shroomsworth, who was just pulling himself upright after picking a wooden toy car from the floor. The toy was promptly discarded into a nearby appropriate box before Shroomsworth turned to his little brother. The weariness and expression spoke volumes where he did not, but the small Pokemon did have his attention. Also less energetic than usual, Sporgard waddled forward and looked up to Shroomsworth curiously. "I am very happy that you are spending so much time with us, but it is terribly unlike you to stay around the hub all day without a single complaint. Is something wrong?" Let no one say his closest sibling wasn't very perspective. Shroomsworth sighed, allowing his posture to slump uncharacteristically. There was little sense in hiding his displeasure at that point. He looked down at his brother, and was once again stricken with the urge to comfort him as a child. However, he then remembered his own words to Rhodes. The Shroomish before him was treated as a child, yet he was not even that much younger. After all he'd been through abroad, all he'd seen, it was no longer right to him. Honestly, would be best. I wouldn't know that book. I'd have to look that up. Huh. Maybe my school should have made me read more books. "I am tired of everything, Sporgard," the monocle-wearing Breloom admitted. He took a few steps to the nearest seat and settled into it as he continued. "I spent nearly my whole life under the Elder's teachings, and apparently the respect for my endeavors died with him. Those I thought closest to me do not respect me in the slightest." But that is not true at all, Sporgard worriedly exclaimed, though not loud enough to interrupt the reading going on across the room. I have the absolute respect for you, and I am certain others feel the same. I know Miss Ariana and Mr. Ginkgo do. Shroomsworth could only shake his head. Such optimism was nice, but he certainly wasn't feeling it at the time. I'm not so sure, I'm not so sure. Miss Ariana does not trust me to fill our late elder's position, and it is apparently in her hands to dictate such things as the new elder. Oh, the elder told me all about that, the smaller Pokemon proclaimed with a sudden smile, gaining Shroomsworth's surprised attention as he went on. Miss Ariana would be the next elder after him, but he knew she would most certainly dislike the job. He assured me most assuredly that she would eventually seek someone to fill in his role if he were to depart. I'm certain it was you, brother. Oh my god. That's the book with Judge Holden? Oh, I knew Judge Holden did some fucked up stuff. But... God, imagine being in a world where people know Judge Holden more than the thing that he's from. He told you all of that? Just how much time did you spend with him in my absence? Shroomsworth inquired. Though he never admitted, there was a tinge of jealousy within him. Such important things that he was never told. Very much of it. I was very unhappy when you left, so I asked to see the elder. He began allowing me to accompany him until I felt better, and spoke with me about many things. I did not get to sell things myself, but I was allowed to help at many stalls. It was quite fun. While the jealousy reached a point, Shroomsworth managed to quell it for his brother's sake. After all, at the same time, he was proud. They were carrying a mature conversation, something that he never thought of doing with the childlike Shroomish. I see. He paused, pondering a question briefly before he resolved to ask. Sporgard, what do you wish to do when you are considered of age? The inquiry brought a boggled expression from the little Shroomsworth. From the little Shroomish! Sorry, I still have him on my mind. His eyes wandered off in thought, all while the story reading continued in the background. A brief fit of childish laughter filled the air at the tale's progression, just as Sporgard's face lit with inspiration. Oh, I enjoyed helping at the market very much. I would love to simply stay in the village and continue doing just that, though I know I will likely have to travel abound as you do. Perhaps, Shroomsworth replied thoughtfully. The gears were turning in his head. Maybe there was a way to solve everything. With his first smile of the day, the Braylum stood and looked upon his brother amiably. How would you like to accompany to the Commerce Mushroom again tomorrow? Perhaps we can get back into the swing of things and all that rot. Such words brought the characteristic excitement back to Sporgard, warranting a bounce of joy. That would be perfect! We can even say hello to Miss Ariana! Yes we will, Shroomsworth assured. Ginkgo's story came to a comical but heartwarming end, leaving the many Shroomish happy. However, many disappointed whines sounded as he closed the book shut between his vines, set it aside, then laid out those dreaded words. Now then, bedtime is soon for you all. Get yourselves nice and ready. And so, one more night passed. It was one of optimism, though. As Shroomsworth once again laid his head down to rest, he felt good for once, like he finally had a direction again. Then came the next day. Shroomsworth and Sporgard were out of the hub at the earliest convenience after having their respective meals, and was soon darkening the doorstep of the Commerce Mushroom once again. Well, Shroomsworth was darkening it at least. Sporgard didn't exactly cast much of a shadow. Once again, the old berry stand was available, and they naturally took it. Anyone from the village was welcome to any stand they felt they could handle on a first-come, first-served basis, with the knowledge that a notable portion of the funds would go to the good of the village. Of course, everyone would go for the more luxurious and attention-grabbing stands first. After all, they still got a cut of the profits when the day was over. Never had Shroomsworth bothered to pick any other stand. That single one, it was special to him. He didn't need it to be flashy. It was great just like it was, the same as when it all began for him. He turned to Sporgard, who was so very excited to be helping him, and then he sprang at least part of his idea upon the smaller fellow. Sporgard, I do so feel I should tend to some business with Ariana. How about you try your hand at this in my stead? In fact, why don't you take over for the day while I observe? Once I return, of course. The little Shroomish's eyes widened and an ambitious smile grew upon his face. With a single hop, he was atop the stand itself among the displayed berries. I would be honored, brother. I would so love some pointers from you, as they say. Excellent. I'm sure you will do a fine job, and we will work on any shortcomings I spot. For now, however... Shroomsworth turned, making a brief glance back at Sporgard before leaving. I must check in with our hard-working elder. And so he did, leaving Sporgard to prove himself as he made his way to the back end of the commerce mushroom. As he rounded the corner, he spotted the once blocked doors to the Elder's chamber, now wide open. It felt like as good of an invitation as any, so he stepped right in. The air of the Elder's chambers was surprisingly cool and relaxing, sporting its own natural rocky fountain, much like the larger market outside. Several mushrooms grew around the trickling water, as though they were forming within a cave, which, by all accounts, wasn't terribly inaccurate. A large circular bed sat in the very middle of a rather large room, sticking out as the most luxurious thing there. Everything else was either wooden, earthen, or part of the large mushroom enclosing it all. Most worthy of note, however, was the trapdoor leading down to the destination of the village's funds below. It was hanging open, and not long after Shroomsworth's arrival, a familiar masked face appeared, followed by the rest of who it belonged to as she trudged up a flight of steps. "Ah, Miss Ariana, so good to see you," Shroomsworth greeted, as well-mannered as ever despite their last meeting ending with his displeasure. This time around, things were on the other foot. Ariana emerged from the cellar, appearing somewhat worn out. It was hard for Shroomsworth to say he didn't see that coming, knowing her. He may have been dedicated to the village's well-being, but managing its commerce was another thing entirely. Ariana's eyes laid upon her visitor. It was difficult to judge what she was thinking, but if one had to guess, she appeared relieved. "Shroomsworth, I had begun to wonder if I would see you here again. You should know quite well that I cannot stay away from here." Shroomsworth remarked, sounding as nice as could be. However, his head hilted with sudden curiosity. "Dare I ask, how are you holding up?" After being asked such a thing, the Roserade shot Shroomsworth a suspicious glance. "I feel as though you already know the answer to that. Even more, that you reek of an agenda. That's quite unlike you." That was more than enough to wipe the smile off of the Braylum's face. "What? Why would you say that? You have every reason to be displeased right now, and yet here you are, smiling and asking me obvious questions," Ariana accused. There was no amusement on her end as she stepped close to Shroomsworth, practically glaring up at him. Perhaps it was worth actually stating his plans, lest she begin thinking he was up to something worse. After breathing in and letting out a deep sigh to prepare himself, Shroomsworth did just that. "I wish to take the position here, under the condition that Sporgod officially assists me. I cannot imagine that I would second-guess the job with a beloved sibling at my side, and I believe he would very much enjoy staying within the village." Dead silence followed. Ariana simply stared up at Shroomsworth, quite unamused. Her expression caused him to glance away uncomfortably. "I would consider this, if not for the fact that I no longer feel that you have such a position," Ariana declared. It seemed as though it should be cold, but her words came off more as disappointed than anything else. Regardless of their tone, they sent a shock through Shroomsworth. "What? You cannot be serious! You cannot be serious! The Elder clearly wished for Sporgod and I to— The Elder wished the best for both of you, and you have neglected to pay your respects even once!" Ariana interrupted in a rare state of irritation. It quickly subsided as she sighed and glazed off to the side distantly. "That is shameful, Shroomsworth. I expected better of you. Your brother would sooner have the position, were he not a child." A few sputtered attempts at beginning a sentence escaped from Shroomsworth's mouth. He couldn't think of a thing to say to that. It cut him to the core. Sorrow and frustration began to mix. One for the fact that she was correct, and the other for the fact that she wouldn't even try to understand. Finally, Ariana took a step around Shroomsworth to the doors of what was currently her room, extending an arm to gesture outward. "I will continue lead for now. Please, exit and think about your actions. Otherwise, do not approach me about the position again." Though her words were mildly reluctant, they were still stern and unwavering. Shroomsworth had felt vague rejection in his last meeting with her, but this was outright. In a huff, he turned and looked upon Levi briefly, only to stomp out of the room as his frustration took over. The large double doors then shut behind him, as if to accent how he was suddenly unwelcome. "This is ridiculous," Shroomsworth muttered to himself as he weaved through the market once more. To him, it was clear that she took out her unease with being the new elder out on him. He deserved better, I agree, and his mind started on devising attempts to show it. Would he end up undermining her if he did such a thing? For the first time, he found himself not caring. Without a word, Shroomsworth took his place behind his old stand, staring forward with a terribly displeased look on his face. It was rather difficult to hide after his encounter. He looked down to notice a rather respectable sum of poke upon the stall itself, given the amount of time he had been absent, yet he was in no such mood to be of a mentor at that very moment. Sporgard, having been atop the stand the entire time, was quite perspective of this as usual. Brief silence occurred as he looked upon Shroomsworth before inquiring, "Dear brother, did something happen?" "No, nothing, Sporgard, nothing at all." Shroomsworth quickly blurted out. His claws gripped against the edge of the stand, and it seemed to be squeezing it hard enough to strain the wood slightly. Let us, let us simply have a quiet day of sales. Oh, Sporgard paused, only to apparently come up with an idea as his face immediately lit up with a smile. Perhaps I can tell you one of the Elder's stories. Did I ever tell you of when he met Miss PK and... no! No, Sporgard. I'm not in the mood for... Eh? Shroomsworth interrupted in his frustration, only to have something catch his attention. What about Miss PK? She once came to him and spoke of how she would lose everything she had. She helped her with some of our own expensive in exchange for help in return. I believe he was simply being nice, though. Sporgar went on in his usual talkative, excited manner. Of course, talkative and excited was the complete opposite of how Shroomsworth felt, and somehow hearing that nice story about their elder didn't help matters. His mind wandered back to his argument with PK before his departure for Sapling. The things he said, and how he didn't believe her. His claws made a small impression in the wood before he took notice and released it. It was at that very moment, that terrible time in which Shroomsworth felt so imbalanced, that he showed up. That strange Needle King, once again weaving his rather wide path through everyone else on his way to Shroomsworth's stall. In his claw, he held some sort of small, simple sack. Hey, you! I almost forgot. I almost thought you left again, Trudeau called out with overt friendliness that caused Shroomsworth to cringe in his current state of mind. The Needle King showed up only to unceremoniously drop the small sack upon the countertop, allowing it to wilt downward and release its contents. Some sort of blue powder. God, yeah. I wish for Shroomsworth to stay in Sapling Village for the rest of his life. I wish for him to be the elder in this village. But it was clear that they had plans to bring him back at some point. Which is very disappointing. Random tangent again. I guess it's kind of relevant. But I think in my fic, I do want to have a point in the story where Shroomsworth goes from being just a simple cashier behind a stand at a general store to being a leader of something, whether it's something business related or actually being the new mayor of Filet Town. I'm still not sure of the details, but I would like him to have that sort of increase of power. I believe Glib had some influence on this. It is ultimately their group. And Luvachi was friends with Glib, so they probably had some knowledge of spoilers. Once again, Shroomsworth was looking upon a product of which he had no idea what to think. However, this time, his eyes drew back to Trudeau, who was looking so very proud of himself. He felt no restraint against saying what was on his mind. Why do you come to me and show these ridiculous things, Trudeau? I hardly even know you outside of this activity. Being asked such a thing seemed to throw Trudeau off a bit. His eyes widened, though even with that insult, he simply grinned with those large fangs of his. Well, you're always pretty critical. I figured if someone as haughty as you ever thinks one of my products is a good idea, I'd sell 1,000,000 of them. The Noodle King explained, only to take the bag of unknown powder back to his claw and turn around. You're a little too haughty right now, though, so I'll come back later. As the larger Pokemon began to walk away, something in Shroomsworth's mind snapped. He was so very tired of everything, and he couldn't take it anymore. His baser instincts longed to take everything out on the last man to wrong him. He stepped out from behind the stand, and his legs seemed to automatically carry him forward. His arms longed to whip forward with deadly accuracy. Then, something happened. A grip upon one of the petals of his neck stopped him cold, brought him out of his near-rage state just long enough for him to turn to see a shocking face. Ophelia Minfu, looking up at him with disdain, a look that immediately reignited his irritation. Master? Let go of me! Shroomsworth demanded. Unfortunately, his demand was only met with a harder tug that sent his body jerking in the same direction. Outside, now! The Minfu demanded in kind. His commanding grip refused to ease up. Others were starting to notice. Sporgard in particular looked upon the spectacle with complete confusion. What are you doing? He asked the sudden visitor. Others were starting to notice. Sporgard in particular looked upon the spectacle with complete confusion. Oh, that's the same thing as before. The mean Fu gave only a passing glance at the small shroomish, but he remained silent as initial command. I get this is like a copy and paste because with the way that the story was laid out, PK would have an illustration to go along with the story, and those will be in the description of the DeviantArt stuff. But in this wiki's case, you could completely remove this line as it's unneeded. Though still seething, Shroomsworth managed to acknowledge his brother. I need a moment, Sporgut. Stay with the stand, he instructed, interrupted the last word by a heavy pull. Where the mean Fu went, Shroomsworth begrudgingly followed, strung along by his neck. They exited the commerce mushroom to the dim plaza, overcast on that particular day, and weaved around the side of the large building. With but a short journey out of the view of any villagers, Shroomsworth was roughly tossed forward by his neck pedal with such force that a few stumbles were all that kept him from going face first into the grass. I come all this way to find you lashing out at others in anger. Explain yourself, Fu scolded, crossing his arms and looking upon the taller Braylon with disapproval. Oh, yes, I suppose I need lecturing from all over the region all of a sudden. Is that it? Shroomsworth shot back angrily, whipping his tail around in a wide, almost dangerously heavy circle as he turned to face Fu once again. That bloated imbecile insulted me to my face, after I have to put up with him and his idiotic ideas for years. He deserves retaliation. Without hesitation, Fu stepped forward, fearlessly approaching the larger Pokemon and glaring up at him. Then with amazing speed, he caught Shroomsworth off guard. A terrible, albeit fluid and effortless blow to the stomach with his palm, sending the monocle Braylon doubling over in pain. You've forgotten yourself. It's below your own standards to speak of others that way, he stated quite calmly, even after such violence. I do not wish to play this game of disrespect and complaints. Once again, explain. Disrespect, you say? Shroomsworth replied weakly. His body was curled forward after the blow to his stomach, leaving him to hold his claws to it as he winced with discomfort. I haven't been playing this game of disrespect since the good Miss Kecleon's thievery put all of this in motion, he remarked bitterly, glaring right back at Fu through his monocled lens. The way he had to bow down put them at near-eye level. Another blow, swift as the last one. A kick connected with Shroomsworth's side, forcing him to stumble and fall to his knees. He propped himself up on his claws, eyes facing the ground as he coughed lightly, in his attempt to catch the breath that had been knocked out of him. His monocle, dislodged by the impact, hung down into his view. At that moment, the lightest signs of water droplets fell from the cloudy sky. A light rain was forming in its earliest stages. The mild, cool splashes of water didn't faze either of the two in the slightest. Fu simply stood over the ground at Braylon, looking on quite seriously. I don't enjoy this. Speak to me with respect, and I will do the same for you. The proposition caused Shroomsworth to go silent, aside from his panting. His head simply continued to hang, masking it under that cap of his. Everything felt so hopeless as he started to consider whether he deserved the minor beating he just took. In light of nothing but silence, Fu's eyes narrowed. Do you recall your encounter with the scarred bandit? That got his attention. Shroomsworth's head perked up somewhat, just enough that his face was partially visible. The shower all about had progressed into actual rain, though it was light and calming. You became angry and attempted to kill him with your own fists. You were ashamed, and so you came to me, Fu recalled. I did not approve, but I understood what your situation pushed you to do. Give me a chance to understand your aggression here. Shroomsworth trailed off. As the sting of the strikes delivered by his mentor Dole, a new pain formed as he tried to think of a way to explain himself. He couldn't. He could only shake his head and give a single, frustrated pound of his knuckles against the ground. It was enough of an outlet for him to calm down slightly once more, though his voice shook as he spoke. I've never felt like this, Master. Underappreciated, disrespected, and I keep thinking that perhaps I deserve it. It upsets me greatly. I see, Fu stated, just before pacing a few feet away. To that I simply asked, why do you deserve it? The most difficult question. Why? Not because Shroomsworth didn't know the answer. He very much did, and he despised himself for it. Something had to be done, and he realized it just then. The Braylon picked himself up onto his feet once more, reaching for its mildly water-stained monocle and placing it back on his face. In the same motion, he turned away from Fu. Apologies, Master, Shroomsworth called out hastily, just as he ran off into the rainy forest beyond the village. Ditched where he stood, Fu was perplexed. It took him several moments before he resolved to follow in pursuit. He had already lost sight of Shroomsworth past all of the many tree trunks between them, but he had seen the direction taken. Several minutes of hunting ensued before Food would find the Braylon once more, standing amongst a field of raised, well-carved stones. Why did you run like that? Foon asked quite sternly, approaching Shroomsworth from the side. It wasn't until he properly got there that he was able to see two white petal flowers held in Shroomsworth's grasp. Rain continued to patter around him as Shroomsworth took a sigh. His eyes stayed focused ahead as he spoke, fixated on the large headstone ahead of him. In my village, it is shameful to not honor the distinguished dead. A closer look at the stone read the recently deceased elder's name in chiseled letters. Food took care not to step forward onto the freshly disturbed soil covering the grave once he realized what it was. He had no words. I was terrified to come here and accept that he has gone, Shroomsworth continued. He sounded much more clear-headed than before, though no less shaken. I felt like a lost child, and perhaps began acting rather childishly to match. I apologize for treating you poorly, especially after how far you traveled. It doesn't bother me to travel. Perhaps it suits me to pay respects to the late elder myself, Fu stated thoughtfully. It was out of my right mind when I received the news. I lashed out at PK, yelled at her, blamed her. No one could have seen this coming. She did not deserve— SHE DESERVED THAT! Shroomsworth thought aloud. He bent down, allowing the two flowers he had been holding to drop gracefully onto the grave of his deceased mentor. His eyes briefly averted the scene towards Fu, but quickly turned away again upon noticing that he wasn't being questioned for what he'd just done. Are you to return to Tao then? Fu inquired. He was always at the point when he could be. It was just how he was, even though he was concerned. A moment of pause occurred. It was much like when Shroomsworth had his idea the day prior, but this was different. He had help, an experienced second opinion. I require your aid if I am to do that, Shroomsworth revealed, taking a step back from the elder's grave as he turned to face Master Fu. This village will not survive with the elder that surpassed this one in charge of commerce. However capable she may be at everything else, I had thought to take over, but I became somewhat selfish in my desire for that. It would best go to someone more suited. Already you seem to be overcoming your prior difficulties. Perhaps you should first admit that you do wish to return to Tao. Fu lectured as kindly as he could manage. A sigh sounded from Shroomsworth along the gentle patter of rain. Very well. I would like to return to Tao— No! My brother Sporgard is more than capable of leading instead, with a little preparation. However, no one will respect him as a leader because he is a shroomish. They are regarded as simple-minded children here, Shroomsworth explained, bowing his head and managing a friendly smile. Your talents would help him attain the respect he deserves in the eyes of his peers, and I could ensure that he is prepared enough before we depart. Fu put his fingers up to his chin and thought. If he is willing, then yes, I can do this for you. However, he paused, pointing an accusing finger up at Shroomsworth. I will accept no more changes of heart. You are committed to coming back, yes? Yes. Yes, I am. Shroomsworth, listen to me! Do not go! Shroomsworth confirmed, returning a smile from earlier. Immediately after, he bent forward in a brief, polite bow. I will linger a tad longer. Please, go and meet with my brother at the stand. I will be there shortly. Fu gestured similarly, bowing right after Shroomsworth. Collect your thoughts well, he wished before turning and heading back the way he came, quickly disappearing into the light mist of rain falling through the trees. Left on his own, Shroomsworth turned and glanced down at the flowers he left on the elder Shroom's grave. Though it pained him to do so, he leaned down and took just one of the two back into his claw, still leaving the other to respectfully lie where he originally placed it. I'm terribly sorry, Elder. I know you understand, he whispered under his breath. With the flower in tow, Shroomsworth exited that proper line of graves. Each one had an elder's title upon it, but as he went further out, there were other stones, crude ones, perhaps signaling the burial of the more common villagers. His eyes set on one. It wasn't far from the proper graveyard and was rather surrounded by trees, making it one of the more obscured ones. The mere sight sent a terrible chill through him. Still, he soldiered through it and stepped forward. The stone itself was crude, but on it was etched a simple, though smooth insignia of a mushroom. Shroomsworth felt a little more overwhelmed than he did when approaching the elder's grave, but he still leaned down and placed the flower upon the damp grass next to the headstone all the same. He gazed upon it for a moment after. Clear droplets fell from above his cap as he stood still, obstructing his view only mildly. Not that it mattered. He was rather lost in thought, and continued to be as he slightly turned and trudged away from the unnamed grave. Slowly, he made his way back to the village. Why, Elder? I do not understand. She was sick, Shroomsworth. She did not last but a few hours after our arrival. You hadn't even hatched by then. But it is not right for no one to know about her. If the village knew of her illness, they would become wary of her offspring. Your life would have become needlessly difficult. The only option was a quiet burial. I do not care. This is not right at all. It was her dying wish for you to be raised normally, even if she would be forgotten. Doctors from abroad assured her you would be healthy, but many of her superstitious population won't accept that answer from foreigners. I dreaded to tell you all of this. I am sorry. Please, honor her wishes and tell no one. I think I understand, but I do not wish to be here anymore. Very well, then. For bearing this knowledge, you may be considered adult in the eyes of our village. If you're ready, I will not force you. For now, let's head home. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. I kind of want to do a rewrite of this where Shroomsworth is breaking down into tears about how he's not respected and stuff. How he never gets the opportunity to tell Pokemon how he feels because they just simply don't care about him. Like, this man puts up with so much shit. And never once does he have the opportunity to express his dismay about it all. He never... I don't think he... I recall an instance in which he said, "Madam, could you please not do that? It is very disrespectful to me." I don't remember if he ever did that and PK just didn't care or not. I don't remember him saying, "I had a most unpleasant experience, and it would be best if I had someone to talk about it to." He never wanted to bring up what happened at the castle to anyone to get that weight off of his chest. He never was like, "If you would hear me out, I feel like no one in this town respects me." He never once said that to anyone. Fuck. I hate it. I hate it so much. I fucking hate it. That this is how the story was written. I'm drinking more and more now like I'm drinking beer. Even though this is just a Capri Sun. Like, goddamn it, fuck these circumstances. I just threw my pouch like it would be a beer bottle, by the way. I guess it can't be helped now, can it? What's said is said, and what's done is done. It's not gonna change, no matter how it is, no matter the fact that I officially own the character now. God, ain't that the truth? If there's one thing I am glad for, it's that I own Shroomsworth now, so I can pretty much do what I want with this character. God, yeah, who needs critics with this story when everything can be seen with the naked eye? So, I'm a bit too upset to continue reading, even though it's like, hold on, let me lower this while it's loading. Do you see how many side stories there are in this? That's a lot. And it's just on mission 6. Like, Jesus Christ. Remember when missions only had a few side stories? I mean, this one technically only had, I guess, one. This was a multi-parter, and then there were these interviews. This one had quite a few, this one being the longest one. This only had a few. This also only had a few. This one just has a fuck ton. Yeah. And then came Mission 8. God. Yeah, like I said, I am too upset to continue reading. Who wants to watch PK get beat up by my Mugen roster? Because it's the only form, it's one of the only forms of catharsis that I have that I'm willing to share with the public. Alright. 1v1s with PK. Who's she going up against first? Oh, I accidentally put it on Simul, sorry. My hand was too clenched in my fist. Who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? Pyro! Oh, yeah! This one's AI patched, by the way. Pyro, that's an old character. He got AI patched by Lily's Mads. And there's an infinite with this character. And if the Pyro is able to get up close to PK, then he'll be able to do that. Also, most of these stages I have don't have music because they were meant for a BRB segment in my streams, which I don't actually do anymore because I always start my streams on at 9 p.m. now. And it looks like the Pyro's just getting zoned out. Wait! This could be PK's... Yes! 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 The infinite! I intentionally coded PK to do Shadow Sneak, by the way, because it would just be boring if all the AI did was spam assists and hidden missiles. Also, Lamau, that's super. I also intended to make PK as shit as possible. I did say some things about this in the previous stream. Her level 1 is a pretty shit projectile hyper. Her level 2 leaves her on minus. And her level 3 damages health. It can be blocked, but the AI just doesn't block it. Just doesn't block it at all. But yeah, I guess she does have some pluses about her, like her throws do ignore defense multipliers, because that is just a common thing with my characters. I even did it with shroomsworth. Anyway, Pyro's being outzoned again. Oh my god, power scaling PMD-E. Devonshire would probably be up high somewhere because he's already dead.
Into the heat of battle. Go for it.
Oh yeah, that's right! Last night I did have the idea of putting her against Duke Nukem, so I need to do that. So at this rate, I don't think PK is going to be using Shadow Sneak again. Shadow Sneak being that one move where she teleports behind the enemy. It's basically just a copy and paste of another special Sucker Punch, which is such a lunge forward, except Shadow Sneak has the advantage of it appearing behind the enemy. I guess it's kind of a mix-up tool, I guess. But it's not in the mix-up sense where like, oh, are they going to go low, or are they going to go overhead, or are they going to go mid? Oh, Pyro got the infinite! Yo! Base super usage! And the teabag at the end. God, I wish this Pyro was updated. Even though it's an old character. Okay, now where's Duke Nukem? He's in with the Brer Cigar characters, which is right here. Where is he? Duke Nukem! Wonder if I should make a special intro with PK and have it be sorbet related. Here we go, PK versus technically sorbet. Oh no, wait! Oh no, this is bad, I didn't think this through. Oh wait, something of Duke Nukem's hit. Oh no, that projectile hit Mike. That would be a good video idea, but I am shit in the power scaling sense. I mean, I do watch Death Battle, but the numbers they say are just numbers to me. Oh! This is a good level 3. If I remember correctly, Duke Nukem was made for a Mugen full game that that Brer Cigar worked on. It's a Vine Sauce related Mugen full game. Specifically, Vine Sauce Joel or Varg Skeletor.
This ain't a visit, puppy dog. I'm gonna kill you. Say hello to my little food.
I just don't agree with them comparing stats and being like, oh, this character is faster, this character has faster reaction speed, this character has more kilotons or whatever of TNT. I think in a battle, what fares battle in battle is wits above everything else. Like power, yeah, sure, contributes towards some of that, but if you can't outwit your opponent, then what good is it to beat them up, right? Also, yeah, that is true. I'm actually surprised that Duke Nukem got a round off of that. Also, the level 3 kill. Oh, what is this Duke Nukem is going through? No, Duke! Oh, no, not the level 2.
I've forgotten what.
Oh, that explosion got her. And if only there was a way to compress store-based files so that they sound like they actually came from the Duke Nukem game. Okay, Duke Nukem popped his V-trigger, which in this game is like Street Fighter V's V-trigger, except in the full game it's called a Vine trigger. Boom! Rocket to the face.
Get ready for the next battle.
I guess that could count, but I want them to be as crispy as they are in the Duke Nukem games. I don't know if lowering the sound quality would be enough. All right. Back to randoms. Ooh, Master Steve. I say that this version of Steve is the best because he has a gimmick involving crafting. Basically, whenever you use your attacks, depending on the type of attack you use, you either get an iron bar or a stick. Yeah, like so. You either get an iron bar or a stick. And the crafting grid works just like in Minecraft. And the AI does know how to take advantage of it. Like, okay, I see sticks, he's going for ladders. I think earlier he was using a minecart. Oh, he also has string, so he could be trying to craft a bow. Yes, he has a bow. Oh, but he got blocked by something, I think. Oh, he crafted a wall block. Yeah, like I said, best version of Steve and Mugen. I don't think any other version of Steve compares to this one. It's even got Minecraft HUD on it. Sadly, the items don't stick between rounds. No! Oh! That laser got hitboxed. Also, I had to get a Lavender's Town stage for my Mugen. I like Pokemon horror.
I'm gonna kick your ass.
I have never seen that burst from Steve. Also, I think PK's going to win this. Yep. Unfortunate.
Get ready for the next battle.
Also, I noticed that he has a diamond thing in there. I wonder what that is.
Prepare to strike. Now.
Boom! Oh, he's just gonna he's just gonna wipe her off the face of the planet with that pickaxe super.
Into the heat of battle. Go for it.
I gotta see which version, which author made this Steve. I can probably attribute most of these characters to an author.
Fight you. I'm gonna kick your ass.
Master Steve. Ryu Wonso. Oh, and he's actually in the same division that PK is on Sprite Club. So this would actually be more of a fair fight for these two. Unfortunately, Steve is gonna have to miss on this round. Come on, Steve, make it back. I know you can do it.
Get ready for the next battle.
What are you doing?
Are you ready?
Use the pickaxe super. Yes. Oh, and she got Mike.
Face your ass. What's the difference?
Oh yes, PK, give yourself self-damage. Oh, Steve bursted through that. Good, good, good. Now survive this onslaught, please. I do want to say one thing about the summoning special that PK is doing. It is completely RNG. So there could be some times where she gets Kalish. There could be some time. Oh! The clutch.
Get ready for the next
Anyway, there could be times where she just gets Kalish. Sometimes where she could get the goo. Sometimes where she could get Devonshire. By the way, Devonshire is a two-parter hit, where the first hit hits low, and I think the other one hits mid. Oh, and it also comes from the opposite side of the screen that PK is facing from, making it a really unpredictable mix-up. Oh, this is a team. Yuyuko and Yomu. I think this is one of those characters that is, Oh no, they act in pairs! Yuyuko, why are you grabbing the air? This isn't Street Fighter, you're not just building meter. Also, it's this stage with the bass music again. Let's see, is this on Sprite Club? Yeah, this one's actually made by Dia or Diamond. And it's in second div. Wow. So yeah, this is way out of PK's league.
Get ready for the next battle.
Oh no, if Glip hit me up. If Glip hit me up. Well, I mean, shit, it's not every day you get to interact with someone like that, so of course I'm going to take it. I mean, despite my hatred against them, and despite how shitty answers they're going to provide me, I mean, fuck it. I'll do it.
Get ready for the next battle.
Also, yeah, Yuyuko and Yomu sweeped. Okay, this better not be anyone from that one game. You know, it'd probably be the same questions I asked everybody, except it'd be worded a bit more differently, like, what got you into making PMDE? Even though that probably would have been answered in one of the podcasts. I don't know, maybe? Oh no, Flowchart Ken! No, he's not good enough! I probably also asked them about how PMDE was supposed to end. That would be the most important one, because they're the creator and all. Because there's so many things that could be asked that I just don't have it in my mind right now. If something like that were to happen, though, I'd probably have to shout out anyone to give me ideas. You know, things about PMDE, of course. But yeah, I gotta show off Flowchart Ken, even though he won't win this. Okay, maybe, nah, maybe Flowchart Ken is absolutely gonna eat shit and die on this. But this version of Ken is based off of the old Flowchart Ken meme. I gotta pull that up while this match is going on.
Get ready for the next battle.
I'm gonna pull it up in this. Okay, so while that is happening in the corner up there, this is Flowchart Ken, which was an infamous Street Fighter 4 meme, because like this is what Ken's used to do in Street Fighter 4 apparently. And true to its nature, that's what Ken is doing right now. Also, if you're a fan of the Nun's characters, you'd also know that this face is the face in the upper left corner is a Gygas' small portrait.
Get ready for the next battle.
Yep, we know. Cookie reference. Oh, that's right, I can't skip in CPU versus CPU. So yeah, Flowchart Ken is basically a jokey, gimmicky character. He's in 5th Div. I also gotta see who he's made by. Nova Magnolia, that's who.
Get ready for the next battle.
And I think there's a funny thing about this Ken, where if he's going up against a Mori Boy, it plays a Siva Gunner remix of Ken's theme with a Mori Boy based off of a Mori Boy the Pirate. Let's get down to business and consume the soy. If she said that, I say, well, good. He didn't deserve the setting. Which Tenchi was this again? Oh, it's just Tenchi. Wait, that's not just Tenchi. No, I would not be the one to put just Tenchi in this roster. Also, PK with the Dizzy Punch loops. Oh my god, PK, stop with the Dizzy Punch loops! No, I see that Hakuto no Ken boost meter! I don't think this Tenchi is making it.
Get ready for the next battle.
Oh, this is Tenchi Ray by Tamago Kanten. Unfortunately, I don't think I have the AI patch for this, even though Sprite Club does have the AI patch. But yeah, if you know Ray from Hokuto no Ken, as in the arcade game with the dribbling combos and infinites, then yeah, it's that Ray. Oh, that would be a question I would ask, Lip, though. Why did you give so much shit to Shroomsworth?
Prepare to strike. Now.
I have not seen the remake anime trailer, but I did see the trailer that Kenshiro was coming to City of the Wolves, which I'm still shocked is happening. Like, at that point, City of the Wolves is just Mugen. You got a DJ, a soccer player, you got the voice of Hotel Mario as Mr. Big, and now you got Kenshiro for some reason.
Get ready for the next battle.
Stop this at once. This is not
Oh, yeah, there's no music in this. Never mind. Oh, Dance Master Dwayne!
Well, I usually look in magazines or see what the kids are.
Oh god, I forgot about that intro. Like, I keep forgetting to bring up the context of that intro, but it was like a Glitch Puppet joke post. Well, it was a joke post that Glitch Puppet made in regards to this silly alternate universe where there was this white Lucario named Prince Kickdog, and it was written in a jokey manner, like it was a parody of badly written Pokemon O-Season stories. And it even made reference to a female Shroomsworth-like character. So yeah, that's Prince Kickdog for you. I decided to reference it in that thing. I wonder if I should make an actual character of that. It would be funny to make that as like a serious on God's green earth character. It's just in spite. And I should also give them a special intro with PK. Because, you know, I can just use the type wild sprites from Lucario. Also, yeah, there's no way PK's winning against Dance Master Dwayne. God, I wish YouTube had access to things like Better TTV and 7TV with custom emotes and stuff. Oh, that's a rip. Guess if I want the story of the game, I'll have to stick to the arcade game. Oh, okay.
Get ready for the next battle.
I'm wondering if I do have a funny AI patch character for something Hokuto no Ken related. Because I think there is a Lucario by Ralor that has Hokuto no Ken stuff. Oh, totally accurate, Dan.
I refuse to yield.
Fighters ready. Engage.
What are you doing?
Oh.
Get ready for the next
I
battle.
wouldn't know anything that happened in Hokuto no Ken.
Go.
Like, my only knowledge about the series is from the Kusuge arcade game. Also, damn, PK is destroying him, which should not be happening. Oh my god, I just realized what characters I should have on this roster. The old ones by Gugu64. Those would be so funny to have on the roster.
Get ready for the next battle.
Because when you said Mega Drive fits the North Star game, I was thinking of that one Kenshiro character by Gugu. I think before next stream, I'll make it an effort to add all of Gugu64's characters into my roster. Even if they are broken and jank, and if they cause the rounds to go on for a really long time. They're still pretty fun to watch. Like, you can tell that the creator had a lot of fun with them, even if they are not conventional fighting game characters. Also, no! Dan lost the round.
Into the heat of battle. Go for it.
Dang. I think the only other series I know through fighting game osmosis and well, because of memes, is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Like, if you to ask me who the strongest JoJo character is, I will tell you it's Kakyoin because of net loops and his reach, and he is banned in tournaments alongside Pet Shop. So if you want to play Kakyoin, I think you have to play new Kakyoin. I think he's not banned, you just can't play as regular Kakyoin. Also, Judge. Oh yeah, seizure warning, sorry about that. Okay, seizure is over. Okay, so I don't know much about El Chavo. I've heard it was an icon in the home region. Huh. Oh yeah, rest in peace, Chuck Norris. Oh, is the OVA is the one where he throws fish. There's like that one scene where he's throwing all the knives and then one of them is just a fish. I would like to see a Dio that has a Dio and Mugen that has him have a chance of throwing a fish. Also, wow, PK is outzoning him for once. Wow. What is Josh again? Josh is first div. I got to screenshot that because that is honestly pretty surprising. Like, she's not going to win all 3 rounds. No, Josh is going to block that. Oh, PK's going to regret that that Shadow Sneak. Oh yeah, PK definitely gonna regret that Shadow Sneak. I'm still surprised she got around. Oh. I added this character in specifically for Team Fortress 2 reasons, and because... Well, this is just a mashup of a bunch of stuff. You got Lazy Town, Team Fortress 2, and it's Captain Falcon's rig from Smash Bros. Brawl. I wonder how funny it would be to try to make this a decent character. That should be something I could do when I get back into Mugen. Because I have been out of it for a while because of the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon server on Minecraft that I've been playing a lot. And also because I've been doing a lot of art and writing for Eternal Bliss. I think Sport Scout gets absolutely stomped here.
Get ready for the next battle.
Also, I have no idea where that ending sound for that super comes from. I just know that I took it from a Golden Fantasia character.
Go.
I think PK wants to do dark and disturbing imagery and all that. But the problem is that one, they are incapable of giving it the respect that it deserves, and two, they're too busy drawing porn to give it the thought it deserves. Like, I know that they have an NSFW Tumblr, and I'm willing to bet that they spent more time drawing porn and taking requests for porn than taking PMDE seriously.
Get ready for the next battle.
Madam, stop this at once. This is not funny.
Prepare to strike.
Also, I still wish I could find the guy that voiced Shroomsworth for those 2 flashes. Also, what the fuck was that super? I also realized that this Sporta Scout character has a 3rd strike bar and a 3rd strike stun thing. Yeah, this guy just has 3rd strike stuff all around. Yeah, this Sporta Scout definitely needs looking into, and I'll probably have to see if I can find a catalog of Lazy Town sounds. Like that symbol thing that happens when Sporticus is flipping around and stuff. Oh my god, I just had a memory of when people were power scaling Sporticus back during the Sporticus versus Homelander stuff. Oh my god, that was what a time to think about that stuff. And also, Jesus Christ, Sporticus is powerful. Like, just from the things he did in the show alone. Oh, Clone Koa. This is one of Daniel 7x9's characters.
Fighters ready. Engage.
I don't think Clone Koa has AI, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't think she has AI, because the one on Sprite Club has AI by Poyo Mousy. What is said? Oh yeah, it's that Clone Koa lost.
What are you doing?
Are you ready?
Huh, really?
Go.
What are you doing?
I'd have to see those, because I think when I did the tag stuff, I was mostly looking at Shroomsworth stuff, and that's when I found the Transform Ice stuff and wanted to get back into Transform Ice. Also, it says here that Clone Koa is 5th div, so that's unfortunate. So even if she did have AI, she probably wouldn't be able to handle PK's zoning. I also think when I made this character, I wanted Mike to be the worst assist. Because all Mike really does is follow PK in a slow manner and tank a single hit for her. Which is actually really bad in the case of Mugen, because Mike is not soaking up damage. His only real purpose is if a projectile is a single hit. If it's a multi-hit projectile like a laser, well then PK's fucked. Yeah, PK and Anana both have their, Oh, I saw that frame!
Get ready for the next battle.
Yeah, exactly. They wanted to set up Anana as an evil manipulator when the evil manipulator was right under their noses. Oh! It's one of the many, Dio-themed Sakuyas I have! What a surprise! This one being based off of Shadow Dio, if I remember correctly. Even though she has a face. Sakuya, you're not supposed to have a face, you're Shadow Dio. Oh, yep, that's Shadow Dio, alright. And she's outzoning PK! They really did everything with Sakuya and Mugen. They made her Dio, they made her Shikin Anaya. Come on, Sakuya. Yeah, that is definitely Shadow Dio moves.
Get ready for the next battle.
Oh yeah, she definitely has a banger theme. I think all of the Toho characters I have in this roster are funny ones. Like, I have... I think it was an Aya Shimemaru based off of Soul. Soul bad guy. I have an Iku who's based off of Orochi Shermie from King of Fighters. I think I have a Ramilia that's based on Clone Zero from KOF. Yeah, Toho is definitely one of those shoot 'em up games that you have to learn. But I would suggest playing it on normal difficulty. Also, fun fact, when I was getting into the series in middle school, I had a friend and I told him about Toho Project. But here's the thing, he was the type of guy who was like, oh, I'm going to play this, I'm going to play video games on the hardest difficulty. Well, you know what happens when you play Toho on the hardest difficulty, lunatic, right? I also remember playing Street Fighter 4 on the 3DS with him in middle school once, but it was the download play version, so we were both stuck as Ryu. I kicked his ass. Yeah, get him, Shadow Dio. You have 5 bars a meter. Use them. What was that? Were you going for a time stop just then? Time stop against PK? Oh my God! She comboed Sucker Punch into the tongue move. I will say, I still find it surprising that I was able to make a Mugen character out of PK in the first place. She just had so much art material that I was able to put it together into a character that plays like something Marvel, except it doesn't have things like Super Jump and stuff. I guess it would be more akin to like Multi-Blood, even though it doesn't have the moon system. No! She pulled off the super, but she still died! Oh, the cake thing. I've never seen that brought up, but when she taunts, there's a chance for her to spawn cake, and if she gets hit out of that cake, then that cake turns into an item that anyone can pick up and get healed for. No, not Flowchart Ken again. We don't need more Flowchart Ken. Ooh, Neku! This is a Berserker character, but it's not a complete joke. I mean, it's not completely a joke character, I mean. My word stumbled for a second.
You're good as gone.
I've never played The World Ends With You, but its battle theme is a certified banger, if I do say so myself. Also, this stage goes hard. Like, I can't believe that something like this is possible in the Mugen engine. Like, the way that thing in the background's head moves, they have to have done something magical within the Mugen engine to get that to work.
Follow my lead. Screw that. See ya. At least we
Get
won,
ready for the
right?
next battle.
Oh yeah, this is like regular Neku.
Watch yourself.
Are you ready? Go.
I can't. You not. Ready for it. Keep it going. Pick it up, phone. I'm there.
KO.
Get ready for the next
Oh.
That's
battle.
how it's done.
Rhodes would have been a Weavile, huh?
Prepare to strike. Now.
I'd probably have to need to see that post again since it's been a while.
Have fun, Neku.
Oh no, now Neku's the one being choked. It's okay, he gets out of this. Like I said, PK's level 2 leaves her on minus. And boom.
That was nothing.
Get ready for the next battle.
There probably was plans to have him something. But yeah. I guess that'll conclude today's readings. It's 11 o'clock and time for me to go to bed. Um, I'll see you all tomorrow for next time when we will read. What was Well of Memories again? Oh, this is the backstory. Uh, doesn't Well of Memories end somewhere? I don't know. I probably put that down for like later. But anyway, good night.